Invaded villages, believers thrown in prison, and kidnapped children. A look at Christian persecution across the globe and the leader of a group dedicated to freedom and peace. Next. Richard Ghazal is my guest. He's the executive director of In Defense of Christians. He's also a retired Air Force intelligence officer and former legal advisor to the Secretary of the Air Force. But Richard, good to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
We met recently at the White House for CPAC's Christian Persecution Summit, the first of its kind. And there we met with President Trump's senior director for counterterrorism and the leader of the president's faith office. Trump is the first president to establish such an office. But in talking about religious freedom and persecution, President Trump has designated now Nigeria a country of particular concern under the International Religious Freedom Act due to the mass slaughter of thousands of Christians by Islamic terrorists.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition.
The stories are tragically real and terrifying. I wanted to start there with this. What has been going on there? How does this all tie into Christian persecution worldwide?
Well, it's a very important issue, and we're glad to see it getting so much attention as of recent. For the last several years, Christians in Nigeria have been subjected to extreme and intensifying violence at the hands of Islamist terrorist organizations, chief among which are Boko Haram, ISIS in West Africa, and many others. What makes it even worse is the fact that the Nigerian government has been indifferent, it seems, complacent in creating this culture of impunity that has allowed this to go on for so long. They've answered atrocity with more atrocity. Each time a terrorist attack occurs, they respond with brute force against not the terrorists only, but against the cross-section of society, putting Christians at even greater risk.
And you said you wanted to make a point about President Trump and his actions in Nigeria.
It's been a breath of fresh air to finally see a president acknowledge what's happening to Christians in Nigeria. With the president's designation as a country of particular concern. And all the attention he's given to Nigerian Christians over the last couple of days, one might even argue that President Trump is the first truly Black Lives Matter president, because the BLM movement could absolutely take a page out of his book on what it means to truly care for Black lives.
Some of these latest estimates coming out of Nigeria, 50,000 Christians killed since 2009, roughly 7,000 slaughtered the first half of this year alone. But unfortunately, Africa isn't the only place where Christians are being persecuted. And during the summit, you focused on Syria specifically. It was interesting to hear just about the history there, one of the oldest Christian communities in the world, but also Christian persecution. This may seem worlds away, but why is this so important, Richard?
Well, Christians play an important role in Syria and have for 2,000 years of history. Christianity really began, of course, in Jerusalem and spread, but really one of the first places it spread outside of Jerusalem, of course, was Syria. That's home to the oldest existing Christian community in the world. It was on the road to Damascus where St. Paul was converted, was brought to Christ. It was in Antioch where followers of Christ were first called Christian. So the Christian history is Syrian history, and Syrian history, frankly, is Christian history as well. Today, we see a very different story. We see a one-time thriving community of about 2 million Christians back in 2011, just prior to the Civil War. Now has been reduced down to less than 200,000, so that's like 1% of the total Syrian population are Christian. The reason this is so dangerous, of course, is because Christians have always played a very important role in Syria. Christians have been the leaders of academia, science, medicine, the arts. They've played a crucial role in public life in Syria. It was Christian presence in Syria that allowed for a somewhat moderate Christian population. Now, if you take Christians out of Syria, you're left with a homogenous population of Muslims, basically, mostly Sunni Muslims with other groups also as minorities. When you create that sort of vacuum of any other kind of pluralist fabric of society, you then create more opportunities for radicalism, and you're narrowing your beliefs, you're narrowing the society's ideas and identities, and it's just a disastrous thing that we just see happening before our eyes.
And that's what you spoke about, right? That this flight that you're seeing of Christians leaving altogether, going to neighboring areas, Jordan among them, but that's happening in mass.
That's correct. It's been happening for the last 15 or more years since the Civil War kicked off. In fact, and it's only gotten worse. The society has completely changed. You have over 1 million or close to 2 million Syrians in Lebanon, neighboring Lebanon, which itself has a population of about 5 million. So you're talking 20% of the Lebanese population being displaced Syrians. That can't be good for terrorism, for social stability, especially when you're talking about a country that's been contending with Hezbollah, a cancer, for the last 40 years. When we're talking about regional stability and U.S. interests, Christians in Syria matter in so many ways, and really this is a big price to pay if for the world, not just for Syrians themselves, if the Christians in Syria disappear.
Villages are not burning in America due to religious persecution, but that said, there are unfortunately more than a few other parallels to be drawn regarding Christian persecution in the United States. So I wanted to bring this closer to home, but under the Biden administration, pro-life peaceful protesters were imprisoned. Conservative Christians were rounded up after January 6th. We had concerned parents targeted by the FBI for speaking out at school boards. Here in Minnesota, we've seen more than a few anti-Christian laws and mandates under Governor Tim Walz, which I spoke a bit about at the summit. But why does this matter? What should people be doing about it, least of all since America was founded on the principle of religious freedom?
Well, my organization, In Defense of Christians, have more of an international focus. But as an American, someone who served in the United States military, have raised my children here in the United States, they go to public schools, I've seen firsthand in my own private capacity what's been happening sort of to this idea of people of faith in the United States, a land founded on religious liberty. I've witnessed a decrease of the role of faith in society, which is directly a cause of cultural decay. I mean, we're seeing school shootings, we're seeing all sorts of mental illness, and I truly believe it's bona fide mental illness. We see hostility to people of faith, social pressure, whether it's coming from the government or just merely social pressure, it's real none the same. One thing that I do a lot of in my work, as discussed, is I look externally to the international community and Christian persecution there. We talk a lot in the United States about every kind of phobia and anti-everything, anti-fill in the blank. But one thing that we fail to observe and really acknowledge and address is this Christian, call it Christophobia, call it anti-Christian sentiment that we see really pervasive in the United States. And I, like I said before, I think it has a direct correlation, a direct causation with the decay in society that we witness.
Absolutely, and so important for the work people like you are doing and pushing back and speaking up about all of this. But for more information about Richard's work and his organization, In Defense of Christians, please visit indefenseofchristians.org. But Richard Ghazal, again, good to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Liz.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.